All right, we are back here on the podcast. Brand new day for the New York Giants. They have a new head coach, the highly coveted John Harbaugh, now coaching the G-Men, promising to bring some change to the organization as a whole. Joining me today to break it down, great friend of the podcast, one of the co-hosts of the Giant Insider podcast, Jerry Foley is here. Jerry, how are you?
Good, Mike. How's it going, man?
Doing pretty good. I got to say, for the Giant fans here, this is a very exciting time because now it feels like we're taking things seriously again.
It's probably the most exciting it's been since 2012 in February, since the Super Bowl. This was their number one choice. John Harbaugh was the number one choice for the organization. I could not be more excited as a fan. You can feel it from the fan base, man. This is just, we feel like, once again, a professional organization.
Yeah, for sure. And I saw some of the stuff he was talking about in the press conference here. And I know the press conference doesn't mean anything here, but when you have a guy, the tracker like John Harbaugh, regardless of how it ended in Baltimore here, hearing some of the accountability he was talking about and some of the changes he wanted to bring to the organization, feels like definitely a breath of fresh air. What did you take away from his opening press conference?
Yeah, that's what's different, right? I was excited about Dable's press conference too.
Yep.
And we talked about this on the podcast, but the difference is there's the track record, there's the resume, 18 years of mostly winning, and 3 of the losing seasons, Lamar Jackson was injured, right? If he has his quarterback, he's probably got 18 winning seasons. So that's the difference this time. It's not just the unknown or the hope of, man, I hope this coordinator can do it. Even Joe Judge, there was some excitement there because he came out so strong, right? But the difference this time is obviously the resume.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously, he's starting to get to work on the coaching staff here. We've heard the Todd Monken, it sounds like he's the favorite of the offensive coordinator if he's not the Browns head coach. A lot of options for defensive coordinator. What do you expect that coaching staff to look like for John Harbaugh?
This is one we talked about as well. I'm not going to try and – this is a little different than Brian Dable or Joe Judge or Pat Shermer choosing coordinators. I don't think John Harbaugh needs my advice or Giant fans' advice. This is one you just kind of let him go. But Monken obviously is an obvious choice for offensive coordinator. I heard I heard Leonard's name. I heard Weaver's name. Even Rex Ryan. He thinks highly of Rex Ryan. We were talking about that. How great would that be? I said it's almost like a heel turn to a face in wrestling. Giant fans can't stand Rex Ryan, but imagine him as your defensive coordinator with Abdul Carter, Brian Burns, but potentially Bobby Okereke on that defense, right? Dexter Lawrence. He's going to get the most out of those guys. So I'm fascinated to see what he does. Again, he can almost choose anyone, and I'm not going to be too upset. He's been doing this a very long time. This is different than, who's Dable going to choose? Who's Joe Judge going to choose? Who's Shermer going to choose? Then, you saw some of the disasters that those guys went with, right? The James Betchers of the past, right? So this is one where I do trust Harbaugh. You get the sense of who we might be looking at, but man, it would be interesting to see if someone like Rex Ryan, if he asked Rex Ryan and Rex Ryan did this, that would be fascinating to me.
Yeah, I feel like Rex is an interesting shout, but I feel like it's still not ideal if you want a guy who's been on TV for about 5-6 years be your defensive coordinator. You're trying to start over.
Yeah, I think the story of it would be fascinating because this was a guy who was kind of in the face of Giant fans when he was the coach of the Jets. He was trying to be the big dog in town, and we all know how it worked out. But you can't argue his defenses over the years have been spectacular. So I get it, right? He's been out of football for a while, but I would, again, I'm not going to be against what John Harbaugh decides here. He's we hired him. They hired him for a reason. They hired him to kind of run this. So whoever he chooses, you're just going to kind of be on board with.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously, the big thing he has to deal with right now is figure out how to get the best out of Jackson Dart because we saw they got to get started under Brian Dable, seemed to regress a little bit under the Mike Kafka era here. Monken coming up interesting because obviously he's worked with the mobile quarterback before in Lamar Jackson. So, what's your hope here for what this new coach is definitely able to get out of Jackson Dart?
Yeah, I think once, the Vikings game was the one where he regressed, but he only threw the ball 13 times, right? The Patriots was a Monday night game. I think it's when he came back. I think it was his first game back from being injured. It was in New England. It was a rough atmosphere. And then, against the Commanders, he was kind of up and down, but he finished strong against the Raiders and the Cowboys, right? So Look, I'm not gonna kill him for what happened against the Vikings. They threw it 13 times. He had 33 yards passing, right? So that was more of a game plan thing than everybody said. Oh, Brian Flores fooled him. Yeah, well, he fooled him, but how often did he throw the ball, right? And there were some injuries along the offensive line in that game, so he regressed a bit, I guess you could say, with Kafka. But Harbaugh took the job for a bunch of reasons, and a major reason was because of Jackson Dart, at quarterback. So. The mission is clear to get this kid to be truly a franchise quarterback and surround him with not only the weapons, but the coaching to kind of get him there.
Yeah. What do you make also of the whole idea that I know there was like consternation on the Giant fans that the contract took a few days to finalize because it sounds like that they rearranged their whole football power structure to accommodate Harbaugh, whereas the Giants have traditionally been the GM picks the coach reports to the GM, and the GM reports to the owner. Now they have the parallel track, and we saw a change already as Kevin Abrams is out of the front office here. Doesn't like they're bringing too many new guys yet, but what do you think about what Harbaugh changing the power structure, that discourse?
I love it. You love it. I mean, the way the Giants have done things has been the wrong way for a while now. So why wouldn't you change? And, with regard to how long the contract took, if this was 25 years ago, you'd hear that the coach agreed Friday and signed Sunday, and it wasn't a big deal. Now you have social media, and everybody's got to comment on why it's taking so long. This wasn't that big of a deal. He just wanted some things in writing. So he answers to the owner, which I think is a good thing. Look, Joe Shane's still going to have a role, but this is going to go through John Harbaugh now, and it should be that way because the organization's failed on so many levels over the last 12 to 13 years. So it's a welcome change, and they're doing things a lot different than they used to. It used to be just coach to GM to general to owner. Now it's coach straight to owner. I love it.
Yeah, I think he can certainly command that here, and obviously the Giant organization as a whole, I feel like they and the Yankees are kind of similar in the sense that they are a family-owned group, and they are very loyal to their people here, and there's a point where even if you like the people, they're doing their job, and sometimes ideas get stale, and you need to change things up here. The Giants are doing that. Yankees resist that for a long time, and they've never really gotten over the hump. So it's interesting to see how this will work for the Giants here.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating, but I think it's the right way to go. They had to change something because it wasn't working, and I can appreciate Chris Mara getting involved in this and the Giants being open to that, not just being so structured and steadfast in the way, this is the way we always done it. Well, the way you've always done it recently has not been good, so let's change things up. So I think it's a good move for the organization.
Yeah, for sure. And one thing that you tend to watch with a coach like this is when they try and bring in their culture, try and bring in some of their former players to help bring things together. It's one of the reasons I think the Jets side of town, you're curious why there weren't many former Lions coming in to help Aaron Glenn in year one there. But what former Reigns do you think the Giants could bring in here to sort of help John Harbaugh implement that culture?
As far as players from other teams, you mean?
Former Ravens specifically, like Harbaugh had.
Oh, yeah, Tyler Linderbaum is the one I'd be looking at. I mean, I don't know if they're going to let him go, but what an upgrade he would be over John Michael Schmitz, right? That guy, that to me makes so much sense if they can work that out. And, John Michael Schmitz played better down the stretch, but Linderbaum would be such an upgrade over him, and it would just further solidify this offensive line. So you're looking at guys like that. But yeah, he's absolutely going to look at ex-Ravens to try and bring over and see who can, what he can do. But it'll be interesting to see, Minter was just named coach there, right? So you got to see how many people are going to be willing to jump ship or they're going to stay there because they're excited about Minter being the head coach. So,
yeah, it's one guy, look at their pending free agent list. Somebody I could easily see the Giants targeting here. Isaiah Likely, somebody I look at because they just gave Mark Andrews a contract extension down in Baltimore. The Giants, you like what you have from Theo Johnson, but having a guy that talented who has the Harbaugh messaging also can make sense. Yeah,
no, I understand what you're saying. Yep.
Yeah. All right. In terms of their own free agents, who do you think the Giants might look to keep in terms of who's on their board?
That's a tough one because there's so many. I don't know. I go down that list, right? Someone like Gunnar Olszewski, I would keep him, right? You go down the list of free agents. Wan'Dale Robinson, is he worth keeping as a slot receiver? I don't know. I think Illuminor has to be number one priority, but you don't know if he's going to stay. He may stay now that Harbaugh's there. So if I'm the Giants, Illuminor is priority number one. and then Wan'Dale Robinson. That's going to be a tough decision, but there's a lot of guys. Like I think Dan Bellinger's a free agent. Dane Belton. These are guys that are okay, but we've dealt with okay for so long. It's like you just don't know how many upgrades they're going to want to do. So I think Illuminor would be priority number one. They have a big decision to make on Wan'Dale Robinson, but like a guy like Gunnar Olszewski, I think he needs to stay. I think he's a free agent. I'm not sure. Yeah, he is, right? Like I would keep him because he's a hell of a punt returner. And look, last game of the season, I know it was Dallas's backups, but he had nice chemistry with Jackson Dart. So let's see what he can do a receiver too. So I know the Giants need a number 2 receiver, and if you lose Wan'Dale, then you need a slot guy. But how much are you going to pay Wan'Dale for this, right? Like Wan'Dale got 1,000 yards, but he's a small receiver. I don't know what they're going to do with Wan'Dale. That's going to be key. But I think Illuminor is priority number 1, and then I think you have a bunch of coin flips after that, to be honest with you, man. Especially with some of the, the guys that were drafted in 2022, some of those free agents, the Bellingers, Dane Beltons, it's, how much do you give them to stay? Do you give them 1-year deals? Will they accept it, or are they going to go somewhere else? So,
yeah, it's like another one on that list, like Micah McFadden, we've talked about before as well. So it's like some of these guys like you're just watching to see like who does this new coaching staff look at and say, okay, maybe we can get more out of them than the previous group did.
Yeah, and I think Dan Bellinger's good. Dan Bellinger's a weird player to me. When he came into the league, he was someone they seemed to rely on. He was a hell of a blocker. Then he got that eye injury, right? And after that, he was up and down. But he showed you he can catch the ball at the tight end position. Like he's good downfield, but they don't throw him the ball that much. It's just I don't understand the use of Bellinger under Brian Daboll. I thought it was kind of strange. So. I wouldn't surprise me if they signed him, and it wouldn't surprise me if they let him go, just because they may look to upgrade, or they'll say, let's get more out of this guy. Like, to me, Dane Belton right now is the best safety on the team. But you've invested a second-round pick in Tyler Nubin. You invested a ton of money in Javon Holland. So Belton's the odd man out. And then in the draft, what are you going to do? Right? There's a safety high in the draft from Ohio State. Would you even consider him? I don't know. So it's going to be fascinating to see how it plays out.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously they have like some things you like in place here. I mean, you have the quarterback theoretically, which is good. You have the left tackle. You had a running back you like. You had the number 1 receiver coming off an injury. You have some good pass rushers here. Like, what are the need areas that the Giants are going to try and aggressively attack in the offseason?
Well, look, they need a corner, right? And at least one. I don't know what they're going to do at safety. Maybe they go with what they have, or I have no idea. They need inside linebackers, right? Like Okereke, is he going to be a cap casualty? Is Micah McFadden going to come back strong? I don't know. They could use another defensive lineman, right? And what we saw of Dexter Lawrence last year, is that now Dexter Lawrence, or did he have an off year? Right? So Abdul Carter, is he going to be the heir apparent to Kayvon Thibodeau? Because I don't think they're going to re-sign Thibodeau next year. So is he going to be the right edge, or are you going to line him up like they do Micah Parsons? Like, are they going to use him like Charlie Bullen did all over the place, right? So that they get a defensive end now, or a new edge rusher to kind of wait in the wings for when Thibodeau is going to leave. And then offensively, it's do they upgrade the guard position, because Van Roten's probably going to be gone. I don't know if he's going to come back. He's another unrestricted free agent. He might be someone I would sign as well, just to a 1-year deal, because he's a good backup center. So I think those positions, there's a lot of them, right? I think 4 or 5 positions on defense, and then 1 or 2 on offense. I think they're going to go wide receiver via the draft to the number 2 receiver opposite neighbors, but we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, and they're an interesting spot in the draft, too, at number 5, because obviously this is a 1 quarterback class right now at Mendoza, so they're not going to get somebody really coming up here to go trade with you, theoretically. Like, there's not a ton of, like, elite players, like, outside of, like, the quarterback. Like, I know you have the edge rusher from Ohio State seems to be getting a lot of play here. Like, what do you think the Giants do at number 5?
Well, I was going to say before, the safety Downs from Ohio State, Reese, the linebacker. I like Ruben Bain, but I don't know if he's going to be there. He would be my number 1 pick, just because he would be the new Thibodeau on the right side. And he's a true defensive end, or what they call edge now, right? So I'd put him there. I don't care about his short arms. I keep saying he has short arms. I don't care. He's had short arms his whole life, and he dominates. He plays the run well. He can rush the passer. To me, that's my guy if he's there. I just don't know if he's going to get all the way to 5. And then after that, look, if it's not Bain, it's best player available because you need so much, right? Obviously not quarterback, but even Jeremiah Love, like, I know that Dave Syvertson wrote this week there might be some PTSD from Giant fans from drafting Saquon at 2 overall. But if Harbaugh went with Love at 5, would Giant fans be upset about that? Probably not. So you have to take the best player available because you need so much. It could be, the receiver from Ohio State as well, Tate. So they have a number of solid players because Mendoza will probably go 1, and then you're going to get basically, you list out your players, you're going to get who's 4th on your board, right? If they go 1, 2, 3, 4 in the same order as other teams. So, they need a lot, right? So it could be any number of the players I mentioned.
Yeah, one thing I'm curious about too is like I know like that there are a couple of tackles up near where the Giants are and like they know their needs really guard because I'm not keeping Greg Van Roten. Like you wonder maybe like do you keep Illuminor like you said earlier and then say okay if one of these tackles is here at 5 we take the tackle and kick Illuminor inside and strengthen the line that way.
Or you move Marcus Bowe inside, right? Because that's another option. They like Marcus Bowe a lot, and he had a pretty good rookie season. I mean, it's some struggles, but there's something there, right? To get him in the 5th round. So that's another option for them. They can move Bowe inside. Or they can say, look, we can't afford Illuminor. Bowe is our right tackle. Or they go in the draft for the right tackle, like you said, and move Bowe inside. So they have some options there if they don't re-sign Illuminor.
Yeah, for sure. And the last question here is obviously we've heard John Harbaugh at the press conference basically says, okay, like we can be a playoff team year 1. Like I am not expecting a rebuild. Like we have enough here. We can coach the guys up. We'll be in the postseason. Do you believe John Harbaugh here that he can get the Giants to the playoffs this year? We saw how tough the NFC was as a whole.
Yes, because we lost 4 or 5. I mean, there's a team that's playing in the conference championship this weekend that we had a 19-0 lead against in the 3rd quarter. It's absolutely like I'm done. We are done waiting for, well, let's just get a little better and get 6, 7 wins. No way. No. Giant fans with this hire, Giant fans aren't just hoping, they're expecting playoffs next year. Now, I don't care if it's wild card. I don't think they're going to win the division. But, there's enough teams that get in the playoffs now to where the Giants can do that. They had blown so many leads this year, if you think about it, the worst of which was against Denver. They had no right losing that game. You got Denver. You got Chicago. You had so many games that were such heartbreakers. So I absolutely think Harbaugh can get them to the playoffs next year. I'm expecting it as a fan.
Yeah, it's good for the Giants also because, like, Harbaugh means that track record of winning, so you expect a bump from him. And for all accounts, sounds like I know it's tough to say this in January, but, like, their schedule can't be harder than it was this year for them.
Yeah, I mean, look, the schedules are pretty much determined 4 years out because you just kind of rotate down the divisions. It's really only 3 games, right, that are kind of interchangeable based on your record. So, yeah, I'm not looking. I looked at next year's opponents. I'm not going to worry about it in January as to who they're playing next year because the Giants are going to improve, and they have already vastly improved by bringing in John Harbaugh. So Again, you play who you play. There's a lot of games we should have won this year that we were expected not to win. They should have won the second game against that. They should have come out of week 2 at 1-1. But that was kind of the Shane Bowen game. Then you had the Denver game, which was really they were 2-4 at that point, and they should have been 3-4 coming out of there. Then you would have had some hope for the season. So look, for all the criticism Joe Shane gets, and I get it, the Giants were good enough to win 6-7 games this year, and they didn't.
Yeah. We'll see what happens here going forward, Jerry. Thanks for all the time. Really appreciate it. People want to follow you guys on social media and keep up with your podcast. How can they do that?
Yeah, it's at Giant Insider on X, and then we have a YouTube channel, Giant Insider, and then we're on all the platforms, Spotify, Apple, whatever other platforms there are. Google Podcast now, I think it's called. So we're on every platform imaginable.
All right, Jerry. Thanks for all the time. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Mike. Good time.